that when they pair up together, sometimes you just have a certain pair that is more dominant and more territorial over certain areas that they stake claim to.
Do they know you? Like, do they recognize you?
I would say yes, they do. Especially like for instance, Charlotte. I have a really good relationship with her, and she's one that like I could walk out onto exhibit and she comes running over and definitely recognizes me. She doesn't do that with all of our trainers, so it just kind of depends on some of the birds. You know, they have their people preferences. Others don't. It just kind of depends on the individual, and they all do have their own individual personalities. Charlotte can be a little bit of a diva sometimes. Sparrow, she's usually quiet. She likes to hang out by herself. She's not a drama queen at all.
Do they like all these people? Because they keep telling them.
They do. They're very curious, and you know they do. These guys all participate in penguin encounters at sheds, so they do get to meet strangers. They do get to meet people, but they don't often get to come here necessarily to maybe hear and see all these different people, sights, sounds. So it's very enriching to them.
Is the marking on their wing the way that you keep them, that you tell them apart?
Yeah, the little bands. You actually can't tell males and females apart from each other just by looking at them. There's no like outer physical appearance, and there's also, they all look very, very similar to each other. So when you have, large colonies, or we have 19 Magellanics at the shed. So if you have all of them standing together, it's very, very difficult to tell them apart, unless you've been working with them for a really long time, and you kind of recognize their individual personalities. But yeah, all of these bands that they have, there's different colors on there that represent different numbers. So she's known as Charlotte, but she's also known as 410. And that's 410, 402, 407, and 409. Or Chile, Izzy, Sparrow, and Charlotte.
Depending on how you want to deal.
Yep.
So fun.
The penguins. Is it penguins?
Oh, you want the rubber ducky? Hey, to each his own. Yes. When they're being territorial during breeding season, or they're protecting their space, or they're nesting their young, they can actually be pretty vicious with the beak. They do have a little hook at the end of their beak. They can be aggressive with each other as well as us, and we just know their behavior. It's just kind of any animal with a mouth to bite. They're just the way they communicate.
Do you ever put them in clothes?
What?
Do you ever put clothes on them?
No, not yet. Yes, I know. Are you speaking?
I heard people were making like little sweaters for penguins when there was like an oil spill or something, so they couldn't preen themselves. Or...
Yeah. In order to protect them and keep them warm, because they're basically these feathers are really important. They keep them dry, but they also keep them warm because they have a downy layer underneath all these waterproof feathers. And if they lose the oil and they lose those feathers, then that's basically the protection that they needed in order to wait for their feathers to grow back and kind of protect them.
Do you name them?
We do. They all have names. This is Charlotte.
Okay.
This is Izzy. That's Sparrow, and then Chile is in Amber's lap.
Sparrow, okay. Are you able to, like, since you work with them, are you able to tell them, like, apart?
Yeah, a lot of us who work with these guys, like myself, I work with them 4 or 5 times a week, and I can tell them apart a lot based on their personalities and how they're acting, what they do, and very subtle differences in them. They're not all identical, but they all look very, very similar. So if you didn't know them or you didn't work with them as often, if you saw 19 of them standing together, you probably wouldn't know one from the other.
Right.
So that's why we do have these little identification bands on them. They're kind of like little name tags. Each of those colors represents a number, so they actually have a number and a name.
Okay.
So this is 410, 407, 402, and 409 as well.
Okay. And she said they're from, where are they from?
You can find Magellanic penguins in South America. So basically along the coastlines of that area, as well as some of the island chains that are off the coastline.
Okay. And is it cold there? Or?
It's more of a temperate climate, so this is a more modern, more temperate species bird. We actually think their exhibit temperature around 64 degrees all year round, so they're used to not so much a cold climate. It's actually we actually had to get a little cover for their carriers and stuff when we were coming here because it's actually too cold for them outside right now.
Yeah, totally.
Are they pretty intelligent?
Intelligence is a really, it's a fun and interesting question to answer. I would say as long as the different species that I've been working with, every animal is as intelligent as it needs to be in order to be able to survive. And I would say these guys are, they're really good at some of the training that we do. And we actually, a lot of people think that you can't, the stuff we train our dolphins or our whales, you can't necessarily train the same way with other animals, but you can. We've actually trained some of these guys to do spins. They target on a little buoy as well. They'll do like the little trainer follows and stuff like that. So they are very smart. They're very curious by nature too. They love this is really fun and enriching for them, especially because they love different clothing items. So they get to see boring khaki pants and blue polos all the time, but when they get to come here, they're like, what can I chew on? What can I pull into this space and make mine? Yeah, right.
Is that a treat for them to get the spray?
Yeah, it's actually, we can cool them off by using it, but then we can also use it as like a play with them. So really the spray bottle means absolutely nothing to them at the start, but what we did is we paired it with fish or things that they like. Say, Charlotte, she really likes the little head tactile. We'll give her a little mist while we're doing that, and they learn to associate it with as a really good thing or a positive thing for them. So, make sure you keep your hands on the other side. Thank you. So over time, it's basically another way we can tell them good job.
Yeah. Okay.
Is she falling asleep over there? She did seem really tired when she was in my lap. She kept trying to lay down.
I know, yeah.
Look at Charlotte. She's like, I don't understand you.
Yeah, he's getting a shower. Getting a shower? They're so cute. He has a big rubber duck.
I haven't had her really in my lap for much. Yeah, Chile. I haven't had her in my lap that often. It's good.
Can you train them to do tricks like a dog or something?
You can't train them. We do train them to do behaviors. A lot of times we start out with just conditioning a whistle bridge with them, just like we do with our whales and dolphins. And then we also train them to do targets and spins and follows and stuff like that.
Oh, no, sorry. Definitely worth asking which Sparrow.
That's mine.
Which one is this one in front of you right there?
This is Izzy, and that's Charlotte.
Your hair is very enriching.
It is.
Aren't they cute? Aren't they cute?
Are these endangered at all, or how's their
They're
habitat?
listed as near threat. Some of their biggest threats are overfishing. So basically, people overfish their food source, and then it causes them to have to migrate, or a lot of populations can't sustain themselves because they don't have enough food.
Aren't they cute? These are real penguins. Look at them play.
Oh my gosh. I got it.
Oh, he wants to play.
I'm gonna eat it. Whatever it is.
These guys, because none of them raised with,
Look at your
always been like in a
Look.
Everyone's like thinking like he's like wrapped up in his towel.
You better watch it. You might want to.
And so they're like their favorite things.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, let's go see the fuzzy
You
penguin.
never learned that. See the penguin? Okay, where's the cow?
She's like, I'm determined to get to the rabbit. Oh, he's over here.
Okay, let's go to the other one then.
Okay, come on.
Follow Pammy.
Come on, Jessie.
She'll follow.
Come on, baby. So this little